Hey guys, what's up? It's Drew here, and today what I'm bringing you is my review of the Crimson hand cannon. This is a brand new, very unique hand cannon in Destiny 2. However, for those of you that have played Destiny 1, you'll know immediately that this is the spiritual successor to the Red Death pulse rifle. So I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna try and say Crimson as much as I can, but I'm probably just gonna call this the Red Death. And let's be real, we all know it's the Red Death. Anyways, I'm completely in love with this hand cannon. I love using this. It's incredibly unique. It's incredibly powerful in terms of what it grants you. So let's get into the review. Let's start talking about the archetype to begin with. So this is a burst hand cannon archetype. Yeah, completely radically different from anything that we've seen, I think, in Destiny before. This hand cannon fires at 386 rounds per minute, but again, it's a 3-round burst hand cannon, and it has 92 impact. That's the same as a high impact hand cannon, but I don't believe it does quite as much damage. The Crimson deals 21 crit damage and 16 body damage per shot. Of course, you'll have to multiply these by 3, so you're gonna get about 48 to 63 damage per burst, depending on if you're hitting your headshots or not. Even with the damage all added up, it's 63 damage, which isn't quite as much as the 71 damage to the head that the high impact hand cannons deal. It does, however, deal just a little bit more damage than that of the Better Devils archetype. The Red Death, or Crimson rather, has an optimal time to kill of 1.3 seconds, and this is going to take just 1 bullet more than 3 full bursts. So that's technically 3.33 bursts with 8 critical shots and 2 body shots needed. It has a much more punishing base time to kill though of 2 seconds. That's going to take 1 more bullet than 4 full bursts, so that's 13 body shots in total. The more average time to kill of this weapon is about 1.45 seconds, give or take. This is going to take 4 full bursts with 3 critical shots and 9 body shots. Now that we've talked about the archetype of the weapon, let's move on to what perks that we're going to have available on it. Now, because this is an exotic, you don't get really any perk choices on it. I'll just be focusing on its main exotic perks. The first one is Banned Weapon, and this describes that it is a hand cannon that fires a 3-round burst, and we've kind of talked about that already, but we'll talk about it a little more in depth in a moment. The next perk we have available is far more impactful and the main perk of the weapon, which is Cruel Remedy. Kills with this weapon heal the wielder, so start health regeneration, and precision kills refill the magazine. Now, we talked about the fact that this is indeed a hand cannon, but it does fire a 3-round burst, so it still does behave like a hand cannon, and that means that it's going to retain the overall feeling and control of a hand cannon, but also other mechanics like bloom. But as much as it's possible that bloom could be affecting the tightness or spread of each burst, I rarely ever felt or experienced any inaccuracy or ghost bullets with this weapon. I would almost go as far as saying that the weapon felt like it really had no bloom at all. Now, I think this could be because it fires and recoils very differently from the traditional hand cannon. It actually recoils more similarly to that of the style of burst sidearms. Although the recoil on this hand cannon felt far less predictable compared to that of a burst sidearm, and the bursts themselves actually felt a little tighter. I think the bigger thing here though is that this specific hand cannon has a much different recoil mechanic and system than the traditional hand cannon, and it's far more stable, which I think makes it a lot more consistent and accurate, at least when it comes down to bloom and accuracy and ghost bullets. Now, because this weapon is a burst hand cannon and fires 3-round bursts, it loses some of the benefit of hand cannons being able to deal massive amounts of damage per shot in such a short amount of time, but still it does deal reasonable damage in short bursts and offers a more controllable recoil mechanic as well, as I just mentioned. The thing is, of course, to get that full maximum damage that you can still deal in a pretty reasonable amount of time, you have to lead your shots and you have to hit every bullet in the burst. Of course, if you don't do that, you're going to be missing out on damage compared to another hand cannon user that just has to hit you once to land their full amount of damage on you for that shot. In terms of time to kill, the optimal time to kill of this weapon is competitive with the Better Devils archetype, which isn't bad at all, but you're far less likely to hit that regularly, and as a result, the Crimson has a slower average time to kill, making it less competitive in one-on-one gunfights, especially if someone is landing each of their shots. They're most likely going to kill you a little quicker. That being said, even with this, I felt that this weapon felt really good once I got used to it, and I was able to win a good amount of one-on-ones. I found that the Crimson excelled even more so as a weapon used to finish gunfights. So if I made him weak with an auto rifle, popped into cover, pop back out with the Crimson, and finish off the gunfight so then I can regen my health and get into the next fight. Of course, again, you can win one-on-ones with this weapon, but just being able to clean up quick kills, reload and get that refill into the magazine, and always be in the fight was incredibly advantageous and where I saw this weapon really performing well. It's no secret that there are trade-offs to be made when using this weapon, but I think you can certainly master this weapon, and if you do, it's very, very useful. Of course, something like a longer average time to kill makes sense because you're going to be getting health regen guaranteed on kills. So to balance that, your gunfights are going to be a little harder. You'll need to put a little extra effort into hitting all your shots in the burst, and of course using this weapon in the proper scenarios. In regards to precision kills refilling your magazine, this actually does not draw from your reserve ammo, it just straight refills the magazine and gives you bonus ammo, which is really nice. It's a really nice addition to the weapon. Having a weapon that grants health regen on kills and the opportunity to continuously refill your mag allows you to always be active in as many engagements as possible. So now that we've talked about a lot of the characteristics of the weapon, the perks, the archetype, its unique 3-round burst, let's talk about some real stats here. Now the stats aren't officially available on the database yet, so I did have to measure this in Photoshop, so apologies for any very minor variances that there might be when the stats come out. But nonetheless, starting with range, this weapon has a 75 range stat and 75 target acquisition stat to go along with that. It's got a very high 97 stability stat, 42 handling stat, and 64 reload speed. In terms of range overall felt really good on this weapon. There were times where it maintained full optimal damage when I really didn't expect it to. Range drop off for the weapon started at about 32 meters, so the optimal damage of the weapon isn't something to be too worried with as it maintains it for quite a reasonable distance. I think the biggest detriment to the weapon's range is actually more so that it's a burst fire weapon, somewhat like a pulse rifle, except with less accuracy. That being said, I decided to shoot at a wall from what would be considered a longer range for me, and I applied regular recoil and compensation and even had a counterbalance mod equipped. Of course, recoil compensation would be easier due to aim assist, or bullets would be a bit more forgiving because of magnetism, but the point is that you can see the spread of the bullets and how they land, and it's just easy to notice that the spread of repeated bursts at a reasonable rate of fire is simply too inaccurate to effectively use at range reliably. And this would be where it falls a bit short compared to a traditional hand cannon like the very range-friendly Better Devils. Moving on now to stability, the stability on this weapon was just about as good as the stats would suggest, which is pretty fantastic. There was very little screen movement to be compensated for and was almost entirely vertical, and even more so with counterbalance mods equipped. The recoil on this hand cannon, whether on controller or mouse, felt very similar, which should say something about its stability, considering mouse and keyboard generally has much better stability on weapons. Controlling and mastering the precision of the Crimson really came down to utilizing the sights. As you repeatedly fire the weapon, the sights tend to get kinda hidden by the muzzle recoil of the weapon itself, but in my experience, so long as I kept my eyes centered on the sights themselves and the tip of the weapon, I was able to reliably land shots with relative ease. There were times where I felt like the weapon itself was visually recoiling more than the actual screen was moving up and that I had to compensate for. When in gunfights or shooting from farther distances repeatedly, it felt as though the tip of the weapon, or of course the sights, were generally where the burst always led from, and despite the small amount of recoil from the burst, shots would reliably hit and maintain accuracy so long as you were aiming and leading your shots using the sights or the tip of the weapon when they would kind of conflict with the sights. In general, this weapon had excellent stability and its recoil was quite manageable and easy to maintain. Lastly, in terms of handling and reload speed, handling did feel slightly slower on the weapon, and the heaviness of the weapon could definitely be a drawback to its potential versatility, especially compared to other hand cannons. That being said, overall the handling really wasn't that bad, but again, still somewhat noticeable. Reload speed was about average and wasn't really bothersome in any way, especially since the precision kills could refill the magazine, reloading becomes less of a concern. Lucky Pants for the Hunter is an exotic that would pair well with this hand cannon to make up a bit for its lack of handling with the quick draw it grants, as well as some increased accuracy when you do draw it. This is also a great combo, seeing as Crimson really excels as a finishing weapon like I mentioned earlier, so Lucky Pants will allow you to draw it really quickly and finish off those kills. Anyways guys, that's all I have to say about the Crimson hand cannon. I'm really loving and enjoying using this gun. I think it's just so incredibly unique and has so much potential to go along with it. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Definitely comment with your thoughts on this weapon and share your thoughts with me on the video as a whole. As always though, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been Drew here today, and I'll catch you guys later.